In 1513, an Ottoman admiral drew a map that should have been impossible. At first glance, it looks like an old sea chart, torn parchment, strange coastlines, faded ink, and notes from a world that was still being discovered. But hidden near the bottom of the map is a shape that has haunted researchers, writers, and mystery hunters for decades. Some believe it shows Antarctica, not in the modern age, not after satellites, not after polar expeditions, but in the year 1513, long before Antarctica entered the accepted maps of the modern world. And if that were true, it would raise a disturbing question: who mapped it first? Was this only a mistake on an old chart? Or did Piri Reis preserve a fragment of knowledge much older than himself? This is the story of the map that should not know Antarctica. And like every good mystery, it begins with a piece of evidence that refuses to sit quietly in history. The man behind the map was Piri Reis, an Ottoman admiral, navigator, and cartographer. He lived in an age when the world was being redrawn by sailors, empires, and explorers racing across dangerous oceans. In 1513, he created a world map. But the map we have today is only a surviving fragment. It does not show the entire world. What remains mainly covers parts of the Atlantic, including Western Europe, Northwest Africa, the Caribbean, and the eastern coast of South America. That alone makes it remarkable. But Piri Reis did not claim to create it from nothing. According to notes on the map, he compiled it from older sources. Some were Portuguese charts, some were Arabic sources, and one was said to be connected to Christopher Columbus. That detail matters, because the Piri Reis map is not just a map. It is a puzzle made from other maps, a document built from copied knowledge, captured charts, sailor reports, fragments, rumors, and older geographic ideas. In other words, it may show not only what Piri Reis knew, but what many other people knew before him. And that is where the mystery begins. Near the lower part of the surviving map, there is a strange southern landmass. It bends across the parchment in a way that some people believe looks far too familiar. To supporters of the mystery, it resembles the coast of Antarctica. And not just Antarctica as we see it today, covered in ice. Some even claim it resembles an ancient ice-free coastline, as if a vanished civilization had mapped the land before the ice swallowed it. If that interpretation were correct, the implications would be enormous. It would mean someone knew about Antarctica centuries before its official recognition. It would mean that knowledge somehow survived through older maps, passed from civilization to civilization until it reached Piri Reis. It would suggest that our timeline of exploration might be incomplete. Maybe ancient sailors traveled farther than we believe. Maybe lost source maps once existed and vanished. Maybe history remembers only the final copy, not the first discovery. It is a powerful idea, and that is exactly why it became famous. But this is where we have to slow down, because a mysterious shape is not the same thing as proof. Mainstream historians and cartographers do not accept the claim that the Piri Reis map shows Antarctica. There are several reasons. First, early maps were often distorted. Coastlines could be stretched, rotated, repeated, or joined together incorrectly. Mapmakers worked with incomplete information, uncertain measurements, and second-hand reports from sailors. Second, the mysterious southern landmass may not be Antarctica at all. Many researchers argue it is more likely a distorted continuation of South America, or a blend of real geography and imagined southern land. Third, old maps often included speculative lands. For centuries, mapmakers believed there might be a great southern continent balancing the world. This idea, sometimes called Terra Australis, appeared on maps long before Antarctica was properly known. So when we look at the Piri Reis map, we may not be seeing a lost survey of Antarctica. We may be seeing the messy process of map-making in a world that was still half known and half imagined. But that does not make the map boring. In fact, it makes it more interesting. Because the true mystery may not be whether Piri Reis knew Antarctica. The true mystery may be how much geographic knowledge was moving through the world in 1513. The map appears to preserve information from different cultures, different voyages, and different archives. It reminds us that discovery was never as simple as one explorer finding one place on one day. Knowledge moved through sailors, translators, prisoners, merchants, spies, libraries, and empires. A coastline could be drawn, copied, stolen, improved, misunderstood, and redrawn again. A mistake could travel just as easily as a fact, and after enough copying, the two could become almost impossible to separate. That is what makes the Piri Reis map so haunting. It lives in the space between evidence and imagination. Part of it is clearly historical, part of it is clearly distorted, and part of it looks just strange enough to make us wonder whether something older is hiding beneath the ink. Maybe the Antarctica theory is wrong. Maybe the southern landmass is only South America pulled out of shape. Maybe the map tells us more about the limits of early cartography than about a lost civilization. But even then, the mystery survives. Because this torn piece of parchment still carries the fingerprints of a vanished information network. Maps that no longer exist. Sailors whose names were never recorded. Charts copied in secret. Knowledge moving across oceans before the modern world was fully drawn. And perhaps that is the real secret of the Piri Reis map. Not that it proves an impossible civilization, but that it shows how easily history can lose the source, keep the copy, and leave us arguing over the shadow. So if the map does not show Antarctica, it still shows us something just as haunting. A world stitched together from lost voices, vanishing ships, copied mistakes, and secrets that slipped through the cracks of time. This is why the map still matters. Not because it gives us a clean answer, but because it reminds us that history is not always a straight line. Sometimes it is a fragment, a copy of a copy, a coastline drawn from memory, a truth mixed with an error, and a mystery that survives because the original source is gone. If you enjoyed opening this file with us, subscribe to Unknown Archive, because history is full of objects like this: maps, ruins, machines, and symbols that do not always give us answers. Sometimes they only leave better questions.